Let's see in this video where we can connect a grid inverter or microinverter. It is one of the doubts that arises the most at the time of making the installation, since the manufacturers do not usually include in their manuals a detailed scheme of where we have to connect the inverter on grid or microinverters. In this case here you are looking at a basic electrification grade automatic general switchboard of 5750 watts, 230 volts. And well, you can see that it's made up of an automatic circuit breaker. This is where the wires coming from the electrical supply would come in, and then we would go to the different circuits. In this case the first thing a differential, that already you know that it protects the people, and later the different circuits towards the housing. So starting from this electrical panel, we are going to add in the inferior part some protections where we are going to connect the inverter of network. Here in the lower part of what is the general switchboard of the house, we have connected a differential switch and a thermal magnet that will go to the inverter. The only thing left to do is to connect it downstream of the main circuit breaker. And well, another of the doubts that arise is the position of placement of the differential switch that goes to the grid inverter. This doubt is given because the grid inverter is also a generator of electricity, so the position in which we place this differential switch sometimes offers some doubts. So at the end of the video we are going to do some tests to try to jump this differential switch causing a shunt in the grid inverter to see if indeed this line that goes to the grid inverter is protected. So as I say, we are going to make some tests of operation to once we have connected all the connections of the grid inverter cause a shunt and see if this differential protection that is so important because it protects people jumps to cause a shunt. Well, here you can see that we have already connected the protections that go to the inverter. We have connected the phase, the brown wire and the neutral wire. That comes out of the main circuit breaker, downstream of the main switch of the house. We have taken it to this differential that is recommended to be of type A. We will see it next a little bit the values of both the differentials and the magnetothermics. And then as you can see, well, it already passes through the circuit breaker to go already towards the inverter of network. Here you can see that we have already connected also the photovoltaic inverter with its protections. This would be the box of protections, what is the general box of the house where we have the protections for the different circuits, and in addition we have also added the protections that are going to go towards the inverter through this line phase and neutral and grounding that go towards the other room where we have installed the inverter of network, and we can see that to the exit of the inverter of network, to the exit of alternating current, we have connected these protections. We have connected transient overvoltage protections and a circuit breaker to protect this line as well. To be able to protect this line as well, in the case that we need to install an energy meter to be able to have the monitoring or zero injection, well, we would first have to follow the connection diagram of the energy meter. Since there are different manufacturers, different models, in this case you are seeing that this energy meter is an energy meter that takes the measurement directly, i.e., you have to pass through it all the energy to take the measurement. There are others that have a toroidal, a clamp that would be placed on the phase cable and without the need to pass through it all the energy, through that clamp will be able to measure indirectly. In this case, well, as you can see it is a direct measurement, we have here the input neutral clamp. That would go directly from the output of the circuit breaker to the input neutral, and then the output neutral that would go to both the different circuits of the house and to the production of the photovoltaic inverter. And then at the top we have the input phase that we also take it to the output of the automatic circuit breaker, and output phase that the same as the output neutral goes to the different circuits of the house as well as to the line of the photovoltaic inverter. Well, here we can see the electrical diagram that corresponds to the installation that we are seeing in this video. In this case as an example, an inverter of network Huawei SAN2 of 3 kilowatts, although this scheme would serve us for any other inverter of network as well as microinverters that are coupled to the alternating current, to the electrical network. The only difference would be, well, depending on the power of the photovoltaic inverter we would have to take into account the section of the cables and the protection at the output of the magnet, and the protection at the output of the thermal magnet at the output of the PV inverter. Here you are seeing that the scheme consists of the circuit breaker, some transient overvoltage protections that are highly recommended, the bat meter or energy meter, and then we would already go towards the different circuits of the house, as well as to the line that goes to the photovoltaic inverter. It is recommended that the differential of the line that goes towards the photovoltaic inverter is immunized of Class A, and then it is also advisable to install some protections of surges in this same line. Here you can see the electrical diagram that corresponds to an installation of an inverter of network that does not need energy meter. Therefore, the mixture can be done, for example, downstream of the automatic general switch. In the case that we need a power meter or bat meter, the power meter has to measure the power of the inverter. The energy meter has to measure the same as the electricity company's meter would measure. Therefore, it has to make a border between the energy that comes from the electricity company and the house. Therefore, we have to mix the photovoltaic generation at the output of the energy meter, as you can see, so that the energy meter can measure the energy from the electricity company. So that this energy meter can measure all the imported energy as well as the exported energy. Well, here you can see how the inverter is working normally. It is in operation. And now what we are going to do with this lamp holder is going to be to cause a shunt between the phase conductor and the ground to see if this differential that protects this line that goes to the inverter jumps. So we are going to touch with this lamp holder between the phase conductor and the ground. There you can see how the differential jumps, and logically the inverter of network disconnects totally since it has lost the connection with the alternating current and it has to be disconnected. So, as we have been able to verify in the case of a shunt between the phase conductor and the grounding, this differential that protects this line jumps.